I've always been sort of a knowledge freak. I mean, I was a very weird kid. I knew I was weird when it was happening, but now that I have a 15-year-old son and watch how he does it, I realized how absolutely weird I was and how alarming I must have been to my parents. And I was not socially adaptable at all because I had bad eyes and poor coordination, and I was very easily intimidated. And like, the story of my early schooling was in a town of only 1,200 people, I was able to find 1,700 different ways to get from school to my house in order to avoid being pounced upon by roving cannibal bands of my peers who had sworn to get me, and they never got me. It was astonishing. And no, this was some cow town in western Colorado. And the other thing I discovered early on, and maybe this is too psychotherapeutic to waste time on, was that I could hold them at bay with story. And essentially I became like the king's jester, I became, and then I could hang out with these lumbering, lumpen people because I was always willing to verbally outrage and say crazy things. I mean, like one of my things that really got me a lot of points with the tough guys was I could stand up in class and very rapidly speak sentences into which I could occasionally drop obscenities, but you just couldn't quite hear it. But the kids could hear it, but the teacher couldn't, and it was this. So that was my scene. But in terms of the relationship to knowledge, I love, it's what William Blake said, he said, attend the minute particulars. And that's what's interesting, I think, is, the details of the distinctions among things. I mean, that's why I was a butterfly collector, an art historian, a Tibetan art hound, a rainforest botany person, because what it's all about is the incredible variety of morphological expression in the world. Now, I suppose a Buddhist would recognize this as a serious samsaric hang-up. That I love the texture of the apparent visible world. It's funny that you asked this question because in my morning meditation this morning, I had this image of a work of art, which many of you know, I'm sure. It's Dürer's etching of Melancholia, and it shows an angel in the foreground, and she has the instruments of geometry, and there are zoological collections and maps spread out, and a orrery of the solar system, and she's holding her head, and this strange geometric form is beside her. Well, I've put a lot of study into this geometric form and tracing its history and so forth, but that wasn't what caught my attention in the meditation this morning. It was that I realized, or I recalled, that someone had said that this might be a medically accurate portrayal of migraine, and perhaps the earliest, because Dürer was interested in pathology. And then I got the thing for the first time, which was that the angel has a headache because of the proliferation of this technological artifactoria of all sorts that is spread around. And it's this amazing picture of historical exhaustion. I don't know how I got off onto that. But anyway, this thing about complexity and appearances, I think the way to get into reality is by running the edges, as I've said. And for me, the entry drug was science fiction, definitely, because that permitted anything. I suddenly got the idea, the imagination sets the parameters. If it will work in your head, that's good enough. You don't have to go further than that. You can build machines, societies, organisms, relationships in your head. And if when you run it, the gears turn and the wheels go and it works, then that's it. It works. You don't have to go further than that. And, well, it sort of is working here. I mean, I'm amazed at what I'm seeing happening. I mean, I have the feeling that we're just calling it into existence, that it's working. You know, just don't drop the ball, no, don't jinx it, nobody say too much, but it's turning, I can feel it. I mean, it's like turning a battleship with a canoe, but it's turning, you know, and it's enormous, so it's very hard to deflect its momentum. Nevertheless, by holding this point of view, somehow it's working. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I wouldn't have believed it possible. It is that the world is made of language. And it is that by a certain act of contained concentration, if you are with the Tao, it begins to shed its secret, or it begins to open ahead of you. What's that thing by W.H. Auden about a glacier rattles in the cupboard, the desert sighs in the bed, and the crack in the teacup opens, a door to the land of the dead. It's that, you know, it is a linguistic structure. You can decondition yourself sufficiently to actually step outside the cultural illusion. It's a breathtaking possibility because nobody knows what's outside the cultural illusion. I mean, you know, Plato got it right. We are chained in a cave watching the flickering shadows of something. But life taken with sufficient seriousness and pushed hard enough at the edges, then this stuff will give itself up to you. And it isn't about belief. It isn't about commitment to guru or dogma or method. It's about observational integrity. It's about witnessing and some kind of primacy of self. In other words, you have to believe that you can tell shit from shinola. And when you say it's shit and they tell you it's shinola, you have to vote with your own side, you know. And it's very interesting. The world is like a labyrinth, or as I said yesterday, it will be mastered by a feat of understanding somehow. It's like a riddle. Yeah.
Can you give some advice on how to avoid the pitfalls of mushrooms, the danger of mushrooms? The supply is irregular for those of us who don't have our own botanical garden. From time to time, there are just physical problems. Is there anything practical that you could share?
Yeah, well, the very best thing is to grow them. And this is not as difficult as it's been made out to be. And, you know, the dedication of half of a small closet will get you, your friends, and their friends absolutely smashed. And the other thing is, I mean, I'm serious about urging it. It may sound exotic, but if you want to meet the alien and have a relationship with something very strange that loves you, but that is very, you know, a lot different from a house cat, you should grow this stuff. First of all, it's white as the driven snow. Melvillian associations aside, there's something to be said for this. And then it will take rye, which you buy in a health food store for $17 per 100-pound sack, and it will take rye and it will convert it with a 12% efficiency to dried mushrooms. 12% efficiency to dried mushrooms. I mean, this thing is like, it just wants to enslave itself to you. It will work like a dog. I've never seen anything like it. And it promotes virtues such as cleanliness, the primary virtue in Western civilization, attention to detail, awareness of scheduling, all these grounding qualities, and then at the end, it will deliver to you, you know, the alien body of the higher and hidden unspeakable. And I suppose I should say that my brother and I wrote a book about how to do this, which you can is around. It's not under the name Mckenna. We did it pseudonymously. It's called Psilocybin, the Magic Mushroom Grower's Guide. But literally, if you want to turn your life into pure science fiction, this is the way to do it, because then you have it, and it's not the dried stuff that's rubbery that only works half the time that costs an arm and a leg. It's the living quintessence of the thing. And my Lord, I mean, from that point, you know, you are your own Magellan, and need take lessons from nobody, because the universe that it opens up to you is so large that really you can be confident you'll see things nobody's ever seen before or will ever see again. And technically, it's not that difficult. I mean, it's at the level of a hobby. It's a little trickier than canning jam. It's up there with growing sprouts in little trays or culturing yogurt or something like that. Yeah.
They're saying that life on Earth started a lot earlier than they thought. They thought it started like 6 billion years after the Earth stabilized, when it was only like something like 400 million years. And that it was very possibly, one of the ideas they have is that it was started by spores from outer space.
Yes. Eventually, you see, this is what I said, that they will come to us, because, I mean, that is that's almost like a freebie, because it is, you know, all you have to do is like just wake up for a moment and realize that, of course, space is not an impermeable barrier to life. I mean, it's a tough barrier, but I've been in the Seychelles and in the Hawaiian Islands. These are mid-ocean islands that have been populated by life that has drifted in there. And when you think about the fact that a single Stropharia cubensis mushroom in the sporulation phase, which can last up to 3 weeks, sheds 3 million spores per minute for 3 weeks. One mushroom. So, and then you have, you know, the dynamics of the atmosphere. They pick up off the Antarctic ice shelf chunks of Mars half the size of your head. This is now established that an asteroidal impact on Mars ejected material into Martian orbit that eventually percolated into Earth orbit. And you know now the way meteorites are prospected for is they eventually put it together that on the Antarctic ice shelf, where the wind is blowing 150 miles an hour most of the year and cutting the ice away, that you could fly, and there's no land. What you eventually would get to is the Antarctic Sea, that you can fly over those ice shelves in helicopters with high-powered binoculars, and any black spot is a meteorite or an asteroid fragment, because what the hell else could it be, you know? And they've like tripled the world's inventory of meteoric material in the last 5 years through this prospecting technique. They have found a whole box full, like 20 different specimens that they are confident are lunar material, ejecta from cometary impact on the moon, but two strong candidates for Martian origin. And we're talking about fist-sized donies, you know. So the notion that the percolation of spores and biological material is not possible, I think it will be concluded probably fairly shortly that life originated who knows where and has been percolating out through the universe for a long, long time.